I never thought I'd end up with such a peculiar roommate. It all began innocently enough when I moved into a small apartment in the heart of the city. The rent was cheap, and the location was perfect for my job. Little did I know that my new roommate would turn out to be a source of endless unease and terror. His name was Alex, a tall, thin man with deep-set eyes that always seemed to be staring into some unseen void. At first, I brushed off his odd behavior as mere eccentricity. He kept to himself mostly, spending hours locked away in his room. But as the days passed, I started noticing strange things. It started with the whispers. Late at night, when the rest of the world was asleep, I could hear Alex muttering to himself behind closed doors. At first, I thought nothing of it. Maybe he was just talking on the phone or watching a strange movie. But the whispers grew louder, more urgent, as if he was engaged in some sinister conversation with an invisible entity. Then came the smells. Foul odors seemed to emanate from Alex's room, like something rotten and decayed. I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was just the old building showing its age. But the stench grew stronger with each passing day until it was impossible to ignore. I confronted Alex about it, but he just laughed it off, claiming he had spilled something and hadn't gotten around to cleaning it up. But it wasn't just the whispers and the smells that unnerved me. It was the way Alex moved like a shadow drifting through the night. He never seemed to sleep, always awake when I stumbled out of bed in the middle of the night for a glass of water. His eyes would follow me, dark and unreadable, sending shivers down my spine. One night, unable to sleep, I decided to investigate. I crept down the hallway, my heart pounding in my chest, until I reached Alex's door. It was slightly ajar, a thin sliver of light spilling out into the darkness. I hesitated for a moment, then pushed it open. What I saw inside will haunt me for the rest of my days. Alex was standing in the center of the room, surrounded by candles that cast flickering shadows across the walls. In his hand, he held a book, its pages yellowed with age. But it wasn't the sight of him that froze me in place. It was what he was doing. He was chanting, his voice low and guttural, as if speaking in tongues. I couldn't understand the words, but the air seemed to thrum with dark energy. And then, in the corner of the room, I saw it. A figure, hunched and twisted, its eyes glowing with malevolence. I stumbled backward, my heart racing as I fled from the room. I didn't stop running until I reached the safety of my bed, where I huddled beneath the covers, praying for the morning to come. But morning brought no relief. If anything, things only got worse. Alex's behavior grew more erratic, his whispers more frenzied. And then, one night, he disappeared altogether. I searched the apartment from top to bottom, but there was no sign of him. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was still there, lurking in the shadows, watching and waiting. Weeks passed, and still there was no sign of Alex. I tried to go about my life as usual, but the fear gnawed at me, a constant presence in the back of my mind. And then one night I heard it, a faint scratching sound coming from somewhere within the walls. At first, I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was just a rat or a mouse. But the scratching grew louder, more insistent, until it was all I could hear. And then, one by one, they started to appear. Dark, twisted figures crawled out of the shadows like something out of a nightmare. I watched in horror as they skittered across the floor, their eyes fixed on me with an intensity that sent chills down my spine. I knew then that I had to leave, to get as far away from that place as possible. But as I turned to go, I saw him, Alex, standing in the doorway, his eyes cold and empty. "You can't leave," he said, his voice like ice. "You belong to us now." I fled then, running as fast as my legs would carry me, never looking back. And though I've tried to forget, to put that night behind me, I know that I will never truly escape. The memory of Alex and his strange behavior will haunt me until the end of my days, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurks just beneath the surface of our world. It was a night, and the sky was getting darker by the minute. I was driving home with my 2 young children in the back seat. They had been arguing and fussing, and I was at wit's end. I decided to pull over to the side of the road to calm them down and talk to them. I turned on the car's hazard lights and stepped out, opening the back door to look at my kids. "Listen, you two," I said firmly. "You need to stop fighting and be quiet. It's late, and we need to get home safely." I noticed a car pulling up beside us as I was talking to them. The driver rolled down the window, and a middle-aged couple smiled at me. The man leaned out and said, "Hey there, are you okay?" "Yes, we're fine," I replied. "Just had to calm the kids down." The woman in the passenger seat nodded and said, "We wanted to let you know there's been a wreck over the next hill. Traffic is completely stopped. It would help if you took the side road a little way back. It will detour you around the wreck and get you home faster." I thanked them for the advice, and they waved as they drove off. I got back into my car and buckled up, still thinking about what they had said. I didn't know the area too well, and taking a side road in the dark didn't seem like a good idea. I decided to stick to the main road, even if it meant being stuck in traffic for a while. As I drove past the road they mentioned, I glanced over and saw something that made my heart skip a beat. The couple's car was parked on the side of the detour road, and they were both standing outside. They weren't moving, they were just standing there, staring into the woods. There was nothing but dense trees all around them. The sight was eerie, and I felt a chill run down my spine. I shook off the feeling and kept driving. I figured they might have stopped for a moment, or maybe they had car trouble. As I crested the hill, I was surprised to see that there was no wreck, no traffic jam, just an empty road ahead. I felt a wave of relief wash over me as I drove on. The rest of the drive was uneventful. My kids had finally settled down, and I was grateful to get home and put them to bed. But I couldn't stop thinking about that couple and the strange detour they suggested. Something about it just didn't sit right with me. The next morning, I had to take the same road for some errands. As I approached the detour road, I felt my heartbeat quicken. I slowed down as I got closer, and that's when I saw it. Just past where the couple had parked their car, there was a large sign that read, "Dead End." My mind raced, thinking about how they had stood there, in the dark, with nowhere to go. I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. Why would they send me down a dead-end road? What were they doing there? And why did they disappear so quickly after talking to me? Years have passed since that night, but I still think about it often. Every time I drive past that detour road, I feel a shiver down my spine. I wonder what would have happened if I had taken their advice and turned down that road. Would I have been stuck in the middle of nowhere? Or worse? One thing is for sure. I'll never forget the chilling sight of that couple standing by their car, surrounded by nothing but dark woods. It still gives me chills to this day, even 15 years later. Sometimes, late at night, when I'm driving alone, I think I see their car out of the corner of my eye. It's always in the same spot, just past the hill before the dead-end sign. But when I look directly, there's nothing there. It's as if they're still out there waiting. I don't know who they were or what they wanted, but I'm glad I didn't follow their detour. It's a mystery that haunts me, a reminder that not everything is as it seems. I trust my instincts more now, especially when I'm out on those lonely country roads. So if you ever find yourself driving through the countryside and a friendly couple offers you a shortcut, think twice. Sometimes the long way around is the safest home. It was a late Friday night when I finally left the office. The clock on my dashboard showed it was almost midnight. I had been working late all week, and I was exhausted. The regular route home through the city was always busy, even at this hour, so I decided to take a more rural route. It was longer, but much quieter. I thought the peaceful drive might help me unwind after a long day. I turned onto the narrow country road. The moon was full, and the stars were bright. The road was empty, and all I could hear was the hum of my car engine and the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. It was kind of nice, just me and the open road, but soon I started to feel a little uneasy. The night seemed darker, the air colder. After a few miles, I saw the old bridge up ahead. I had crossed it a few times before, but only during the day. At night, it looked different, more eerie. The bridge was made of wood and iron, and it creaked even when no cars were on it. It had been there for many years, long before I was born. As I got closer to the bridge, I noticed a strange red fog rolling in. It was thick and seemed to glow faintly. I had never seen anything like it before. The red fog made the bridge look even scarier. I felt a chill run down my spine, and my heart started to race. Something about the fog didn't feel right, but I told myself it was just my tired mind playing tricks on me. I drove onto the bridge, and the wooden planks creaked under the weight of my car. The fog grew thicker, and I could barely see a few feet in front of me. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, and I pressed my foot on the gas pedal, wanting to get across the bridge as quickly as possible. The air felt heavy, and I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. Finally, I reached the other side of the bridge. I let out a sigh of relief and glanced in my rearview mirror. My heart nearly stopped. There, standing in the middle of the bridge, was a figure. It looked like a woman in a white dress, her long hair hanging down. She was just standing there staring at my car. I blinked and looked again, but the figure was still there. My mind raced. Who could be out there at this hour, in the middle of nowhere? I felt a surge of fear. I didn't dare stop or turn back. I just kept driving, my eyes flicking between the road and the rearview mirror. The figure didn't move, just kept standing there in the red fog, watching me drive away. When I got home, I locked all the doors and windows, my heart still pounding. I tried to tell myself it was just a trick of the light, a shadow in the fog. But deep down, I knew it was something more. The next morning, I couldn't shake the memory of that figure on the bridge. Over breakfast, I mentioned it to my parents. They exchanged a look, and my dad's face grew serious. "You saw her, didn't you?" he asked quietly. "Who?" I replied, my voice shaking a little. "The girl on the bridge," he said. "There's an old story about that bridge. Many years ago, a young lady hung herself from it. They say her spirit still haunts the place." I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. What happened to her? "No one knows for sure," Dad said. "Some say she was waiting for her lover, who never showed up. Others say she was running from something or someone. But everyone agrees on one thing: she died on that bridge, and her spirit never left." I sat there, my breakfast forgotten. The figure in the red fog made sense now, but it also made everything worse. I had seen a ghost, the ghost of a young lady who had taken her own life. The rest of the weekend passed in a blur. I couldn't stop thinking about the bridge and the figure in the fog. Sunday night, I barely slept, dreading the drive to work the next morning. When Monday came, I took the city route, even though it was busy and took longer. For weeks, I avoided the rural route and the bridge, but the memory of that night stayed with me. I would dream of the bridge, the red fog, and the figure standing there watching me. Each time, I would wake up in a cold sweat, my heart racing. One evening, curiosity got the better of me. I decided to look up the story of the bridge. I found old newspaper articles and local legends. The young lady's name was Emily. She was supposed to meet her lover on the bridge one night, but he never came. Heartbroken, she hung herself from the iron railings. People in the area had reported seeing her ghost for years. They described the red fog and the figure in the white dress, just like I had seen. Some said she was looking for her lover, others that she was trying to find peace. Knowing the story didn't make it easier. If anything, it made it harder. I felt sorry for Emily, trapped in her sorrow for eternity. I wondered if there was a way to help her, to let her find peace. One Friday night, a month after I had seen her, I found myself driving the rural route again. I had to know if she was still there. As I approached the bridge, my heart raced, and I felt that familiar chill. The red fog was there, thick and glowing. I drove onto the bridge, and there she was, standing in the middle, just as before. I stopped the car and rolled down the window. "I'm sorry," I whispered, though I wasn't sure she could hear me. "I hope you find peace." For a moment, the figure stood still. Then slowly she started to fade, the red fog lifting. I watched until she disappeared completely, leaving only the quiet night behind. I drove home with a strange sense of calm. I hoped that somehow Emily had found some peace. I never saw her again after that night, but I always remembered her and the old bridge. If you come for the first time, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon for upcoming scary stories. We need your support. Please share these stories with your friends and family. Thanks.